Gmail was gaining popularity fast, but it was not all smooth sailing for the new platform. Finding a way to monetize Gmail had been a point of contention at the company. Some people argued Gmail should be a paid service from the get-go, but others argued that in order for Gmail to have the most reach, it needed to be ad-driven. The ad revenue model won out, but even before it launched to the general public in 2007, Google got heat for scanning Gmail emails and using the contents for targeted advertising.
If you're emailing someone about, hey, let's meet up and go sailing, and then suddenly there was an ad for sailboat tours, it was unnerving for people because it was so spot on. And people called it creepy and spooky, and suddenly the headlines were very negative for Google and for Gmail.
The practice also made some privacy groups and politicians uneasy. The year Gmail launched, 31 privacy and consumer groups sent a letter to Google's co-founders, saying that scanning emails for ad purposes, quote, violates the implicit trust of an email service provider, end quote. Shortly after Gmail's launch, former California Senator Liz Figueroa even drafted a bill that would place limits on the information gathered from scanning email messages that could be shared with third parties. The bill passed the California State Senate, but died in the state assembly. It would take another 10 years after its wide public launch for Google to commit to no longer scanning any Gmail account for the purpose of personalizing ads. When we asked why it took 10 years for the company to stop scanning emails for ad purposes, a Google spokesperson emailed CNBC directing us to this blog post. Google declined an on-camera interview with CNBC. But this was not the end to Google's privacy problems.
This headline just dropping on Google that the company still does allow other companies to scan and share data from Gmail accounts. This according to the Journal signing a letter to U.S. lawmakers in which Google says that the company does allow app developers specifically to scan Gmail accounts, even though the company, remember, itself stopped the practice for the purpose of ad targeting last year.
A month later, Google issued new privacy policies that put limits on how developers can use Gmail data.
One of the interesting things about Gmail is that even when this controversy about privacy was unfolding and kind of blowing up, more and more people started to use it, and it was just so much better than anything else that was out there that's really when people started to say, you know, maybe there is a privacy concern, maybe I am concerned about this, but this service is so good, I'm using it anyway.
Privacy became a hot-button issue in 2018. As numerous tech companies, including Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and Google, were grilled by Congress about consumer data privacy.
With Americans carrying their phones with them virtually at all times, doesn't the collection of this volume of detailed information really mean that Google is compiling information about virtually every movement an individual with a smartphone is making every hour of every day?
Today, for any service we provide our users, we go to great lengths to protect their privacy, and we give them transparency, choice, and control.
In addition to email, users of Gmail have access to a number of free applications, including Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Drive, and Google Hangouts, among others.
When you have Google Apps associated with Gmail, it's quite sticky, right? If you're using Google Apps associated with Gmail, you're probably not going to move.
Google took Office tools to the web and forced Microsoft to do the same. Microsoft Office web apps became available to the general public in 2010 and included free lightweight versions of programs like Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. But while Outlook may trail Gmail and Google apps on the consumer side, Microsoft's business suite offering, Microsoft Office, still reigns supreme in the $18 billion market for business productivity tools. In more recent years, Google has also come out with a paid version of its online apps called G Suite. G Suite includes all of Google's free Office tool apps, as well as additional features, such as the ability to create a custom email domain and admin controls that are aimed at businesses.
Outlook and Gmail are similar in the sense that they both have free and premium tiers as well as business tiers, but they're different in terms of where their sweet spots are. I would say that Outlook is widely used within businesses and government agencies, and Gmail is more popular overall with consumers.
Microsoft Office still holds 87.5% of the business productivity tool market, compared to G Suite, which holds 10.4%. But Google is working to change that.
Google unveiling its first Gmail redesign since 2013. The overhaul has a slew of new features designed to attract businesses to take on Microsoft's Outlook.
Google says it now has more than 5 million paying G Suite customers, compared to Microsoft Office 365, which has more than 200 million paying customers.
I think Gmail absolutely is coming up in the corporate world, and it is happening as Google is taking G Suite into businesses, government agencies, schools, and saying, use this. Oftentimes, use this instead of Microsoft Office.
And soon, Gmail's revenue stream from consumers may also get a bump. Many free users are quickly reaching their 15 gigabyte storage limit, which is shared between Gmail, Google Drive, and Photos, and finding that they need a paid subscription to keep everything on the cloud. 15 years later, Gmail's big bet on storage may really pay off.